one of the first things that I think you'll see is common sense. The overriding theme here is a return to common sense and a return to accountability and efficiency in government. I think that's going to serve the people well.
Oh, no, common sense in Washington, D.C. The Speaker of the entire House of Representatives. Common sense returning, but that would ruin everything. The whole project would just go up in flames. Common sense. Remember, common sense isn't. It's a lot like friendly fire. Friendly fire isn't, and common sense most certainly is not. Is not common, not in Washington, D.C. Some fun goings-on Capitol Hill yesterday. Elon Musk was up there. You see, he had a kid. He had one of his kids on his shoulders. The kid, you see how focused the kid was? Looks like a bright kid. See him duck. He was on his father's shoulders walking in. The kid ducked going through a doorway. There's a surveillance camera on there. Kid, very naturally, no production, no drama. He ducked while going through the doorway on his father's shoulders, and then there was a bank of news media jackals on the other side. And the young man, how old was he, Michael? 4 years old, maybe even 3 years old, on the shoulders of his father, and looking at the cameras. And he didn't stay focused on one. His eyes moved from one to the next to the next. I was like, that kid is sharp. He's focused, and his mouth closed and his eyes sharp and aware of his surroundings, good situational awareness. It was a fun thing to see. And they're talking about cutting reckless spending from government, and there are Democrats all over the place saying, oh, no, and that means the news media, too. Oh, no, you can't cut government spending. Government grows. Government gets bigger. Government gets more irresponsible. Government is the largest employer in the country, in the United States of America, and that means, compared to almost every country in the world, largest employer, too. And trillions and tens of trillions and trillions in debt, and no big deal because we got that. But it was so there were some fun moments on Capitol Hill with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, and there were members of Congress saying, boy, these guys are really smart. And it's amazing how much they know, given that they don't come from government. Amazing how much they know about government and the departments and the bureaucracy and so on. And good stuff. So we got a little bit of that going on. But that's not the biggest story of the day. There are lots of biggest stories of the day. And also, today is day 2 of the Chris Plant Show Fisher House fundraising day. Yesterday, raising funds, and today, raising funds for the Fisher House. And in fact, for the next hour, in the 9 a.m. hour, we have a very special Fisher House circumstance because a couple of great Americans who are wonderful listeners to our humble radio show, our humble radio station, and our great listeners, they're humble and modest and wanted to remain anonymous. But we know that they are Jeffrey and Janice. Jeffrey and Janice. They're Janice and Jeffrey, and they live in Mount Airy. Mount Airy, that's in Maryland. And they have offered to match the first $40,000, $40,000, thanks to Janice and Jeffrey, Jeffrey and Janice. So if you call to donate to the Fisher House in the next hour, then your donation up to $40,000. If you give $50,000 in the next hour, then $40,000 of it will be matched by Janice and Jeffrey, by Jeffrey and Janice, because they're generous and they're patriotic and they're humble and modest and don't want credit. But if you do donate to the wonderful, great Fisher House, and we're going to be talking to Fisher House people throughout the day today, as we were yesterday, as we did yesterday. But the number to donate to the Fisher House is 888-294-8560. That's 888, right? An 888 number. It's 294-8560. And for the next hour, at least up to $40,000, your donation will be matched by great Americans, great American patriots, and modest and humble people who go by the names of Jeffrey and Janice. And that's a wonderful thing. We're doing a great job raising money once again, as we do every year for the Fisher House, because of you and and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And again, throughout the day, we'll have guests on from Fisher House talking about the wonderful organization that is the Fisher House and the Fisher House Foundation. So we'll get to that. But there is a lot of news going on, as I mentioned. You know, we've got the assassination on Wednesday morning of a healthcare company CEO. And it's amazing how much the Democrats love murder. And they're out in the open about it. Not 2 or 3 of them, but thousands and thousands of them are ecstatic about the murder. And we have this lunatic woman from the Washington Post and the New York Times, and she is just amazing. The headline there is ex-Washington Post reporter doubles down on Post, wanting health insurance executives dead. Quote, it's natural to wish. This is, Taylor Lorenz is her name. Is she a man? Is she a man? I'm not sure. It hadn't been checked recently. She's the one, she's got all kinds of freaky stuff going on her life because she's a news reporter. But Taylor Lorenz defended herself on Substack, saying that thousands of Americans, meaning Democrats, quote, want insurance executives dead, end quote. That's what she said. She's a savage. She should probably be arrested. She should be in a gulag breaking rocks with a pickaxe, probably for the rest of her life. Amazing stuff. So while the police look for the assassin, and it turns out that the young woman running the hostel, often a youth hostel, but this is an adult hostel, I guess, in New York, the woman at the hostel wanted to flirt with the killer, not knowing he was the killer, of course. But he's wearing a hoodie and a face mask, and she said, oh, can you pull down your face mask because I'm actively flirting with you, and this is New York, the land of monkeypox and so many other sexually transmitted viruses and disease and things. But the Democrats are loving it, and it's not just Taylor Lorenz. There are a great many Democrats cheering and applauding the murder, the assassination of a 50-year-old father of 2 and husband, because he's a villain. And you see the news media dug up something. Oh, he's being investigated by the FBI for insider trading or something. Like, maybe they should focus on Nancy Pelosi first. Just a thought. And members of Congress for their insider trading before you go after the healthcare guy. But they targeted and vilified and demonized healthcare companies, big pharma, and insurance companies and CEOs. They make too much money. It's all about envy and bitterness and resentment and being losers, mostly being great big losers. But the Fox News people have the story. Former Washington Post reporter and New York Times reporter Taylor Lorenz doubled down on Thursday on her shocking comments, appearing to celebrate the reportedly targeted murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. A chilling video released on Wednesday showed Thompson being shot and killed at close range while outside a Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, New York. The suspect, is still at large, very much at large, and the Democrats want to date him. They're literally, I was sharing it with you yesterday, they're all over the place online talking about how he's hot. Now, that was even before the pictures of his face came out. They just saw a guy with a hoodie and a gun murder somebody on a sidewalk in the dark, and they said, oh, he's hot, because nobody's more bloodthirsty and blood-drenched than the left in the history of humankind. And make no mistake, the left is here in the United States of America. We didn't have the left like this before, but the Democrats, Bernie Sanders and AOC, they've raised generations of mentally ill leftists who are bloodthirsty ghouls and goblins, and they can't wait to get back to killing again. But hours after the news broke of the assassination of the CEO, Taylor Lorenz wrote on social media on Blue Sky, where that's where what they do. They canceled Libs of TikTok the other day because Libs of TikTok, they post things that liberals put online and they mock them. And you can't have that. See Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, rule number 5. But now these bloodthirsty goblins, these ghouls, hours after the death, writing on Blue Sky, wrote, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. All right? So she is a bloodthirsty criminal, a savage, born of the fires of the Bolshevik Revolution in St. Petersburg in 1917. Doubtless too stupid to understand what she is, what she's become, this ghoulish goblin. But she's, and people wonder why we want these executives dead. Posted some claim made by a radical leftist. And, state-run healthcare, that's definitely the way to go. It's so good in North Korea and China and in Cuba and Venezuela and California. But I repeat myself. So remarkable stuff. So she reposted somebody saying that Blue Cross Blue Shield no longer covers anesthetic, for the full length of some surgeries. Because, that's what's going on. Oh, sorry, the insurance company doesn't cover anesthetic for the second half of your surgery. So when you wake up screaming like it's the Civil War, right? And Miss Prissy's come to the table to help you. If you put a knife under the bed, it cuts the pain in half, because the Democrat Party is the party of the mentally ill. There's no doubt about that. Lorenz went on to share images of Blue Cross Blue Shield CEO Kim Keck. Now, again, keep this in mind. Here's the woman who is the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, the health insurance people, a most excellent health insurance company. And Taylor Lorenz posted a photograph and the name of the woman who's the CEO of Blue Cross Blue Shield, hours, maybe even minutes after the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson, was gunned down and murdered. It would seem to me that she was inciting murder. It looks to me like she is encouraging and inciting a felony murder because she's a Democrat. Isn't that amazing? But Taylor Lorenz is a journalist in good standing, an award-winning journalist, and it's quite remarkable stuff, I got to say. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. And it is Fisher House Day here on the Chris Plant Show as well. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. And as I mentioned a little while ago, today is day 2 of our 2-day Fisher House fundraising effort. It's an annual effort we've undertaken, I think, for a decade and a half now. And if you contribute, donate, in this hour, this 9 a.m. Eastern Time hour, then a couple of wonderful people named Jeffrey and Janice in Mount Airy, Maryland, will match your donation up to $40,000, and that's a good thing. So let's get started this morning with Jack DeLue, because we've got Jack on the line here. And Jack, thank you so much for being here. I know Jack was in the Army and a long line of family serving in the U.S. military, injured in an accident, partially paralyzed, and then participating later in the Warrior Games. And Jack, tell me about your experience with Fisher House.
Oh, yes, sir. So I experienced 2 motorcycle accidents. The second one leaving me paralyzed from the sternum down. But my experiences with the Fisher Houses have always been phenomenal. My main experience with the Fisher Houses came from my first accident in 2015, and it was the whole time I was in the hospital in San Antonio, Texas. The Fisher Houses put my family up, and it was phenomenal. They went above and beyond everything to help my family out during the time of just really tough times during that stretch when I was in and out of the VA hospital and the military hospitals and all that.
And they are there to backstop you and take care of your family and take a huge load off of your mind. Not only take a huge load off your mind, it takes a huge financial load off the family, of course, and brings your family to you because whether you're serving in uniform in the military and ready to deploy at all times, and you were injured in a motorcycle accident, in fact, 2 motorcycle accidents, as you said, but motorcycle accident, and the VA is there for you. But the VA doesn't accommodate family, parents, wives, children, all of that, and the Fisher House does, right, Jack?
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's a truly extraordinary thing, and I don't know how much time you spent in the hospital, but it can, it can break the bank if your family has to come, if your parents come, young man, if your wife and kids come, it can break the bank very quickly. We don't pay our people in uniform millions of dollars a year, and the Fisher House is there. And you say you had a second motorcycle accident too, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you fell off, you got right back on.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things I wasn't going to let. It was a freak accident, and I wasn't going to let just one accident, one incident scare me off of doing something I loved.
Of course.
And so, yeah, I figuratively, I just got right back on the horse.
Yeah.
Like, as I say, and probably should have stayed off, but I'm stubborn.
Well, motorcycles are great fun. I rode a motorcycle for years in California, and it's like flying. It's like being Superman. It's one of the coolest things in the world. I understand completely. And they're not the safest vehicles that you can find anywhere. But it's great that Fisher House and the great Fisher House people, you stay in touch with any of the Fisher House people?
Oh, yes, sir, very much. From when I was in the Warrior Games back in 22, I keep in touch with gosh, I can't remember her last name, but Christy and Michelle Horn.
Mm-hmm.
I keep in touch with them fairly regularly, and they have done so much. And when all my experience out at the Fisher House out in Texas was, I was stationed in Texas for like 5.5 years total, and myself and my entire family's from North Carolina, so. The Fisher House did amazing work, putting my family and myself up for months, if not like almost years.
Wow!
Like doing just everything. Like every holiday they had us, they do like a big get together in their houses, and it was just like it was a home away from home essentially, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah, and I've been to Fisher Houses here in the D.C. area at Christmas time, and they do an amazing job at Christmas time. And listen, Jack, the phone number for people to contribute, to give generously is 888-294-8560. And whatever you give right now, this hour, is going to be matched by a couple of our great listeners in the Washington, D.C. area, Jeffrey and Janice from Mount Airy, Maryland. And Janice and Jeffrey are standing by to match your donation of up to $40,000. And listen, Jack, I'm glad to hear you sounding well, and of course you get back on the horse. That's what I'd expect from you and from a member of the United States Army. I'm not surprised at all. Thank you so much for calling in. God bless you. 888-294-8560. Yeah, Taylor Lorenz, award-winning journalist, New York Times, Washington Post. Not a good person. I don't think anybody would want to marry her, for example, or, take her to dinner or anything like that, because not the kind of person you want to spend your valuable, precious minutes with. Let's, in the meantime, let's go back to the telephones, Michael. We are at 888-630-9625. And again, in this hour, if you would like to donate even a very small amount of money to the Fisher House, which is a wonderful, wonderful organization, the number to donate there is 888-294-8560. And for the rest of this hour, at least, a couple of great Washington, D.C. listeners, Jeffrey and Janice, will match your donation. Just had our friend Randy ping us and say, hey, give me that number again. Give me that number again, because we want to donate. Well, the funds are matching, and that is great. All right, and with that, let's go to the telephones, Mike. Let's go to John, calling from beautiful Missoula, Montana. I bet it's beautiful and chilly.
It is.
John, welcome.
Yes, Chris, I heard your message about the Fisher House and the marathon you're doing, and I made a modest donation of $200, but I know that will be matched by the supporters of this drive, and so that $200 will now be $400.
Exactly correct, because Jeffrey and Janice, wonderful American patriots and listeners, they're generous people and they're moderate. And this is one of the things I love about the United States of America and what we are by nature, John, and that is modest, humble, generous people, and that's what Jeffrey and Janice have demonstrated they are all about this morning, offering up $40,000 of their own hard-earned money, and they'll match any donations made in this hour. And you're absolutely right. You donated $200. Boom, that's actually $400, thanks to Jeffrey and Janice in Mount Airy, and that's a wonderful thing. And we've got our friend Randy is donating with his wife Toby, and they're donating right now because of the match, and that's good stuff. And the Fisher House, just such a great organization.
It's beautiful. I served. I was in the artillery in the Army, and also did some time at some VA hospitals. And I saw many a person come in and out without arms, without legs. And I have all my legs, all my fingers, all my eyes. And it warms my soul that there are people out there that are going to engender a community that is going to help these people that served our country with their bodies. And,
Right.
I only did 3 years in the artillery, and I walked away. I was in between both wars, and
well, God bless you. You served and you put on the uniform and you offered yourself up, and you never know where things are going to go when you join the U.S. military or any other military, but the U.S. military, and God bless you for it. And now Missoula, Montana, beautiful Missoula. I've never been to Missoula, Montana, but I want to go to Missoula, Montana. I often think that's where I really want to live, someplace like Missoula, Montana. And I got to visit. I have to get there and visit first, but that's great stuff. And John, God bless you. Go ahead.
It is the liberal heartbed of Montana, so I don't know if you would like it.
Is that right? They have liberals in Montana now?
Oh, yes.
Can you deport them?
Well, we have discussions.
Just to California or something. Just send them to California. You can't have. It's too cold here to be liberal. Get out of here. Get out. Get man. We eat meat here. We eat ribs. We drink beer. We're normal people. We own guns. We believe in the Bill of Rights. And if you're a big lib, you should probably go to Oregon or something. Get out.
Yeah, I've seen many bumper stickers that go back to California.
Is that right? Oh, that's good. See, that's appropriate. Get back, get out. That's wonderful stuff. John, thank you very much, my friend. Saluting you. Thank you for being a great American. That's a wonderful thing, and for making a contribution to Fisher House, which is being matched. So your contribution being doubled this hour, thanks to Jeffrey and Janice. And to donate, call 888-294-8560. And it's a great time to do it. Wonderful stuff. Also, we doing our normal show today as well, of course. 888-630-9625 is the telephone number to participate in our humble radio broadcast. And in the meantime, we're talking about the crazy people, about the news. Thank you, John. About the news of the day. And absolutely crazy. The Washington Post, New York Times reporter Taylor Lorenz doubling down on her hatred for a man that she doubtless never met, who was murdered on Wednesday in New York City because the left is targeting people. Now, the reports are this morning that police are closing in on a killer. that police have clues, and they apparently do have a lot of clues. They know that he rode the dog from Atlanta, Georgia to New York, I guess more than a month ago. He rode Greyhound, riding the dog. And he took Greyhound from Atlanta, Georgia to New York City, and he was staying in a youth hostel, right? And there was somebody in a hostel, I guess, not so much youth. It's New York, so there are a lot of adults there. And at this hostel in New York, he was wearing the pull-up black nylon ski mask kind of thing, whatever you call it, that doesn't stop the Wuhan Red Death from infecting you through your sinuses or your lungs, but does conceal your identity, right? And might keep you a little bit warm, and it's a bit chilly in New York, but it's not Montana. And should have talked to John about making Canada a state, too, because, another state. Too many libs up there. We might have to talk about that. But nevertheless, the madness of this assassination. And the police now know where he was staying at this youth hostel. They spoke to, in fact, there's a guy who was staying at the youth hostel at the same time who, and his name is Mateus Taranto, and Taranto, Taranto. And Mateus Taranto was sharing a room at the hostel in New York with the killer. Now, he apparently used a fake ID, the killer, after riding the dog, the Greyhound bus up from Atlanta and to New York City. And did he know what he was going there for in the first place? He's got a pistol with an arrestor, which commonly in television and movie lore, they call a silencer, right? And so your gun sounds really fun like a TV gun. And the murderer shot and killed a father of two, a husband, a CEO, who's been working hard his whole life and keeping his nose clean. The news media, they're already smearing him. That means the Democrats, they're smearing the man that was murdered on Wednesday, saying he was under investigation for insider trading. That's what they're saying now, because they will smear everyone and anyone. Isn't that amazing? And you got your Taylor Lorenzes of the world and others attacking and smearing him. Pretty amazing stuff. And Taylor Lorenz, again, now you see why we want these guys dead, based on a tweet by someone she'd never heard of about health insurance at Blue Cross Blue Shield. So they should all be killed. I guess if you had a bad experience at shopping at Target, then maybe the CEO of Target shouldn't be able to walk around safely because the left, right? But the people out of New York, the Denyaz, D-N-Y-U-Z, torrent of hate for health insurance industry follows CEO's killing. Now, that's because the left stirs up hate in everyone, right? And this the killer, who is still on the loose so far. But again, I was telling you about it almost right away, that he went to a Starbucks, which is peculiar behavior. I don't believe he's a hitman, a professional hitman. I think he's a hate-filled left-wing liberal from the suburbs who decided that he would become a hero if he murdered a CEO. Oh, no, he makes $10 million a year. Yeah, okay, he works real hard, and he's done a good job. Everybody would like to make $10 million a year. I would like to make $10 million a year. I can tell you that much. My best girl would be happy with me if I made $10 million a year. So here is one of the guests, one of the people staying at the hostel where creepy killer boy was staying, using a fake ID, but pulling his mask down to flirt with the woman behind the counter who wanted to flirt with him. Maybe she told him to pull his mask down, but she apparently did tell him to pull his mask down. Maybe she told him to pull it down because she wanted to check, his identity or his ID or something, but they apparently don't have his real identity. They may have DNA because he got a water bottle at the Starbucks and drank it, got a Chewy bar or a granola bar of some kind and ate it and left the wrapper there. There are videos of him now walking the sidewalks of New York. And then here's the guy who shared a room with him, Mateus Taranto, who is from Brazil, visiting the United States as a tourist. doesn't appear to be a gang member.
What I heard is that he stayed on the 407, like really next to the bathroom, like right next to mine. That's I'm used to violence because I'm from Rio de Janeiro. There's a lot there, but like not that kind of like cold and articulate and professional killing.
I'm from Brazil. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, so I'm familiar with violence. But he was staying on 7, I think he said, right next to me, and I don't know what the arrangement is with the beds and the rooms and the bathrooms and all that stuff. But he's saying staying right there, right? Now, there was a guy on the television this morning on the Fox News Channel named Philip Klein of Klein. He's the CEO of Klein Investigations, and they do, among other things, corporate security. And Philip Klein was on the television, and he's met the now murdered CEO, and he said, listen, the phone's ringing off the hook for him at Klein Investigations doing corporate security, because now that the Democrats have started this, the threats are dialing up and rolling in.
My phone rang off the wall yesterday with people in the food service industry. Right. Their CEOs are getting death threats. My eggs cost too much. My milk costs too much. I go to your grocery store, it costs too much. These guys are getting threats every day now.
The food service industry, grocery stores, and restaurant suppliers getting death threats because the left is dangerous and mentally ill. Philip Klein, and I like this because I've been saying from the beginning, this guy's not a professional hitman. He's an angry left-wing, white, suburban, self-described liberal, no doubt. And Philip Klein, personal security, corporate security expert, and the CEO of Klein Investigations.
He's not a professional, obviously, if he's leaving bunny trails like he's left, as well as his actions with the gun itself, the suppressor, the baffler, how it stovepiped on him. I just don't see him as a professional.
The bunny trail, and I'm with Philip Klein on this, and I have been from the beginning. I've got to say, I believe that Philip Klein is correct, and this guy may end up being shot to death by the police or committing suicide or something, but Philip Klein of Klein Security.
So that makes him a little bit more dangerous. Yeah. When police do catch up to him. I wouldn't be surprised if it got into a gun battle or a suicide.
Gun battle or a suicide, yeah. He said that he actually met the now late CEO, Brian Thompson, with his team of security people. And he said Brian Thompson couldn't have been nicer. Conversational, shook hands with everybody in his team, couldn't have been more pleasant, couldn't have been nicer. Good guy. Everybody, remember, they said they met him like, oh, this guy's going places because he's such a good guy, such a nice guy, respecting everybody. And then the Democrats whipped up a crazy person into a frenzy, just like the guy that shot President Trump, whipped up into a frenzy from Democrat Party rhetoric. Amazing. And we have, it's Fisher House Day here on the Chris Plant Show as well. Okay, all right, we've got a lot of news to get to, and today we are, it's our annual Fisher House fundraiser, yesterday and today. And to donate whatever amount of money you can offer, you call 888-294-8560. And if you donate now, real quick, Jeffrey and Janice from Mount Airy, Maryland, will match your donation, anything up to $40,000, which is pretty good. And right now, on the line with us, we have a wonderful human being and a wonderful American, Denise Dolan. And Denise Dolan oversees fundraising for the Fisher House Foundation. And Denise, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, Chris, and thank you for everything you've done for Fisher House.
But of course, such a wonderful...
Big shout out to Jeffrey and Janice as well.
Jeffrey and Janice, isn't it great? There are great Americans everywhere and great people everywhere. Just great. And Denise, now you're the Vice President of Development. You oversee fundraising for the Fisher House Foundation. And also, it should be noted, you're a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. So your family has been at it for quite some time, I think it would be fair to say. defending America. And you're the granddaughter, and I loved reading this, granddaughter of a World War II veteran who spent 5 days lost in the jungles of New Guinea. And you know what we thought of immediately when we saw that, right, Denise?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Joe Biden's Uncle Bosie being eaten by cannibals in Papua New Guinea, as Joe Biden said, and it turned out it was completely untrue. But it was a funny story anyway, right? Denise, tell me, and it is, I'm happy to hear that Uncle Bosie made it through the war just fine, and it was good, not eaten by cannibals. Great stuff. But tell me, as the VP, Vice President of Development, overseeing fundraising, Fisher House Foundation, tell me and tell our friends what we all need to hear about Fisher House.
Well, Fisher House is on the road to 100 Fisher Houses, and we were just in Detroit opening the 99th Fisher House there. And then the 100th Fisher House will be opening early next year in Chicago. We are working on other sites at this point. Phoenix is coming up, Pittsburgh, San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we have several others as well.
And the Fisher Houses and their beautiful, wonderful homes that are very homey. They're not really hotel-y. They're very homey. And they are outside of, adjacent to, very close to VA hospitals and places where our wounded combat veterans, in many cases still dealing with serious wounds suffered in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan and beyond, but also accommodating career military people who may have been afflicted with cancer or had a severe car accident, and they're getting VA care. And while they're hospitalized, Fisher House is accommodating their families, right?
Absolutely. And, the great thing about a Fisher House is that families can be with their loved ones within minutes. And that really does equate to a faster recovery time. The patient does not have to worry about the family, where they're going to stay, how they're going to pay for it. And it's a true gift that all of your listeners have given for the last 22 years to have these families close by.
So wonderful, and you are so wonderful, and the Fisher House is so wonderful, and the phone number is 888-294-8560. And if you dial in right now, you still have your donation matched. That is, thank you, Denise.